Hello, everybody. This is Carol Maletta. Welcome to the Parenting 411 podcast, where we share information parents need from sources they can trust. We need to calm down. All you need to do is check today's news, and you're bound to hear about or witness an incident involving violence or assault, physical or verbal, because two or more people didn't see eye to eye. And while such reports aren't exactly new, conflict isn't exactly new, I am struck by the simplicity of some of the matters involved when you get down to the core issues. Someone felt disrespected because of the way someone looked at them or what they said to them. Maybe there's jealousy because someone else has a coveted job, car, home, social status, fill in the blank. And the resentment and feelings of inadequacy just build up and cause a person to lash out in a dangerous way. Now, in business, companies go through lengthy and costly negotiations because they don't want to give an inch to the other side. And in all of these instances, a conversation to gain understanding about what each side needs could really make a difference. And a conversation with a good friend or a counselor could calm things down enough that two parties could sit down to work things out. So my guest today knows how challenging this all can be. Hesha is a master mediator who has written and spoken widely to audiences around the globe who are seeking a better understanding of conflict and pragmatic ways to resolve it. Hesha has worked all over the world with parties engaged in complex commercial, business, and patent licensing deals. Diffusing this tension and helping create harmony where once there was discord is Hesha's life work. She wrote Holding the Calm as a way to share real tools that actually work so that other people can benefit from her experience and resolve conflict and diffuse tension in their corner of the world. So welcome, Hesha Abrams.
My pleasure for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, so you do so much important work helping people come together around tough issues. So let's talk about how you got started.
I can do that. I wanted to say something, but your introduction was so good, it made me think of a funny thing.
Sure.
Never in the history of calming down has anyone ever calmed down by being told to calm down. And that's literally what we do. When we say calm down, it's the worst thing you can do. That's tip number one. It's the worst thing you can do. And yet it's instant. It's right there that we want to be able to do it. So I want to go over with your listeners, what are some things that actually work? Not philosophies, not good ideas, not sign up for this masterclass or sign up for this course. What can you do right now with your bad boss, your idiot neighbor, your difficult brother-in-law, your kid, your teenager, the coach, and another company that you're working out a deal with? Because we're all just human beings. It's just bumper car ego. And the examples you cited in the introduction are tragic. I mean, right. It's just people have no skills. They've got no capacity. I tried to talk to you once. I tried to explain it to you once. It didn't work. You're an idiot. I'm going to go from 0 to 50. Boom. Like that. Whatever your skill set is. And our society is fracturing because of that. I'm trying to get this, we need to teach this in schools, teachers, parents, up into the workplace, up into our communities and our churches and our synagogues and our mosques and our temples and all that cool kind of stuff. Because human beings, I don't care where you are and who you come from and what you do, man, this stuff is real.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting that you talked about how important it is for schools and parents to teach children how to do this. I can recall when my son, one of my sons, was in second grade, and he had a challenging situation with a classmate that was always in his face, always invading his personal area. And so, he wanted me to go talk to that child's mother. He wanted me to come to school and talk to the child. And I said, no, you're going to do it. And his eyes got so big, like, how am I going to do it? But we role played and we talked through it. And I sort of had that one step, like the first time, tell him to stop doing whatever it is that you don't like. And then the next time, look at him, like make eye contact, make sure he sees you, like really stop, I don't like this. And then the third step was to go find the teacher, because they're still young at that point. But yeah, I remember working through that with him, and he's been great. He's been a phenomenal advocate for himself. He's a college graduate, but he really latched onto those skills. I mean, even all through middle school and on up through high school, speaking up for himself.
It's so important because we don't teach that well, and they model their parents, or there's something called the amygdala in our brains. It's right above the limbic system. It's two little kidney-shaped organs that are deep in the back of the brain. And that's the fight, flight, or freeze response. And that's what happens. People either fight, or they run away, or they freeze. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. And sometimes the other person is not malicious or evil-minded, like I'm going to twirl my evil little mustache and I'm going to hurt you. No, it's just they're clueless too. And they don't know what it is they're doing, and they don't understand the impact. But when you handle something, my God, we talk about empowerment. Empowerment is not bestowed. It is earned.
Absolutely.
Big time. So knowing how to stand up for yourself, rock on. That was very good advice.
Now, how about yourself? How did you even get into this space, professionally?
Well, I'm a lawyer. When I was young, they said I argued a lot, so I should be a lawyer. So I did. But I was a lawyer at the time when women were not lawyers. There were very few of us in my law school class. And I remember when I graduated, my husband at the time was top of his class, and I was top of my class. When we applied for jobs, he got lots of job offers. I got none. Top of my class. And so I ended up getting a job for a guy who knew he could hire women cheaper. He could hire really good talent, but it was cheaper because women couldn't get jobs. I mean, it was very tough. And I would be told, well, you could do family law. It's like, well, I want to do business law. Oh, you should do family law. So it's like, even in lawyers, women were being pigeonholed. And so I was a commercial business lawyer. And in 1 week, I won a trial that I should have lost. I just outlawed the other side. And a couple of days later, I lost at a pro bono eviction case I was doing for this poor woman because the judge was buddies with the other lawyer. And I just had a crisis that said, how could this be? I was still young and idealistic about what the legal system should be and all this good kind of stuff. And I said, oh my God. And then I met this woman who was a mediator at a luncheon. And I said, ooh, what's that? And she explained it to me. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. You talk to people for a living and solve problems? It's okay. Where do I sign up? I mean, this is fantastic. And mediation wasn't really around. It wasn't anything. So I actually helped draft the Texas law on mediation, which has been copied all over the country. Orders that I wrote for judges are still being used today. So I've been doing this a long time and actually helped build mediation. And, in the beginning, I don't think I was very good. I think I looked at it as, okay, I'm just really smart and I'm just going to tell you what to do and how to do it. Well, that's not so good. It's not the whole story you started with empowerment. And I've got a story in the book about hospice. And I did some hospice training, which I recommend to any of your people listening here. If you want to get really good at listening, volunteer for suicide crisis phone lines or for hospice, because the rubber meets the road in those circumstances, and you will learn a tremendous amount. People will say, you get me, or, yeah, that's right. It just means I have the capacity for deep listening. And I teach that in the book, Holding the Calm, The Secret to Resolving Conflict and Diffusing Tension. Everyone needs this stuff, not just expert negotiators and mediators and lawyers. Everybody needs this stuff, I agree. God, and if I can just give you one more quick analogy, because it sets the tone. I joke that you drop spaghetti sauce on the counter, you wipe it with a sponge. No big deal, right? You leave it overnight, you're scraping it off with a spatula. You leave it 3 months or 3 years, it's old and moldy and nasty. So that's conflict. Now, the reason I named the book, it was kind of a long title, which I really wanted to shorten, but Holding the Calm, the secret to resolving conflict and diffusing tension. Did I say diffusing tension? Because 100% of conflict, 100% starts with tension. And the tension can be, or it can be,
Yep.
That's tension. But so why don't we wipe it up when the spaghetti sauce is wet, right? We all know that's the right thing to do. Why don't we do it? We don't know how. We're scared. And you may react poorly. I could make it worse. Maybe it'll go away. That's what we do. So that by the time conflict really erupts, it's often not over the thing. It's over the buildup of all the other junk.
Right. And I think another hurdle to it is not wanting to lose face.
You're right. You're right. But when you know how to do it, and I give people sentence stems I literally put the book, it's very simple. It's designed to be read in 2 hours. Simple, easy book. Lots of fun little stories. I did 20 chapters, 1 tool per chapter, with lots of explanations and fun stories. And I'll do a bunch of them in this podcast here with you to make the point. And what I tell people is take my stories, take them, use them. Instead of saying, you should do. Instead say, you know what? That reminds me of a story. Tell them one of my stories because they're battle tested. Everyone I put in there, I have used dozens of times. So I know they work. So tell them one of my stories and let the awareness kind of open up in their eyes to where they go, oh. Think about the Bible, the Torah, the Bhagavad Gita, the Book of Mormon, any religious teaching, the Quran, teaching stories. That's how our brains receive and remember information.
I was going to say that's how we retain those key ideas. Now, we know that some people are just really afraid to approach conflict. And I would put myself in that category for a long time, especially when I was younger, when I was a child. I just let people have their way, unless it was really, let's say, really crossed the line, got real close. And then what would happen is I would just erupt because, as you talked about earlier, I had all of this anger or resentment built up instead of addressing it earlier. So, for that kind of reason, as well as fear, people, they just approach mediation proceedings and conflict resolution with trepidation. And that can really be problematic. I mean, we can be taken advantage of and all of these other things. Why is it just so important to get the skills to be able to represent yourself effectively, not just in any legal proceedings, but just day to day and how you communicate with people and represent your interests?
Well, the easy answer to that is you're going to France. Would you buy a map?
Absolutely.
I mean, who goes into Paris without a map? Who goes into New York City? Who goes into even a rural town and says, where's the best place to get a burger? Knowing the roadmap, knowing what's going on just gives you power. And of course it's scary. I mean, if I had, God forbid, someone sued me or some big horrible thing happened, I would have fear. I'm a normal human being. You think of the repercussions, the consequences. Oh God, what if I don't say this right? Oh God, what if this thing happens? But you get past that when you have these holding the calm techniques, because what it does is it literally creates a moat around the feelings and the actions that you choose to take. And in that space, in that moat, you get to make choices. I choose to respond. What do I choose to say? So, for example, let's say you're at Thanksgiving dinner and, the idiot uncle opens his mouth and says something stupid, and he's going to do it, and he always says something stupid, and the game can start. You can look at them and do the mean way, which is, did you intend to offend me with that? Now, maybe it'll shut him up, or maybe he'll do more. Or the better way is to say, uncle, you know what I really admire about you? there's going to be silence.
That's right.
Going to look like, what are you going to say? Your passion, your commitment, your discipline, how earnest you feel about things. You know what that does? It just stops it.
Disarms them.
Because
yeah.
now, what is he going to do? Continue to go on and whack you? Because now he's still sitting in the glow of whatever that validation endorphin that you just poured all over him. Well, imagine you take that into a meeting with, as I know we have a lot of parents that are, your audience, right?
Yes.
You have a meeting with your kid's teacher. You have a meeting with the principal. You know it's not good. You don't get called in to tell them, to be told how great your kid is. You get told because your kid's a problem and there's difficulty. So you go in and you're offensive, you don't hear. You have what's called ocular occlusion and auditory exclusion. That just means your eyes shut down and your ears shut down. You just can't hear anything. So you go in and you say to yourself, I'm holding the calm. I'm holding the calm. And I use it as a mantra. I actually say it to myself because in 2 seconds, I'm holding the calm. I'm holding the calm. I'm holding the calm. Okay, I have power now, don't I? I have resources at my disposal. I can choose what I'm going to do and what I'm going to say. It just calms that amygdala down and not make me feel powerless. It gives me a sense of power. So now I'm going to listen to you and you're going to tell me whatever stuff you're going to tell me. And of course, I'm going to disagree with you, or it's going to worry me, or I'm just going to think you're wrong and I want to argue with you, right? So the first thing I do is I want to ask a question. And if I can't get the other person to listen, because remember, the other person is just as nervous in that encounter as you. I got to call the parent into this kid and tell them how misbehaving he is, or that there's something wrong with him, or that something was done to him. That parent didn't want to hear what I have to say. They're conflict avoidant. They're nervous. They're scared. We don't think about that. We just think about ours. And so when they come in to talk to you, first thing you should do is to use one of my sentence stems. You know what I really admire about you? You know what I really respect about you? Do you know what I really honor about you? I've got sentence stems in every single chapter, not every chapter, but almost every chapter that are applicable to the situation. And you say that, the person is immediately disarmed. They're not defensive. They're not cranky. They might actually listen to you. Ears open, their eyes open. Okay, and now I want to hear what you had to say. And I have some questions about it. Or I'm not sure we're looking at this in the correct light. Or I think there's some other solutions that we could explore. Would you be willing to do that?
We'll be right back after this. You love your kids. You do your very best for them. But sometimes it feels like it's just not enough. And you're so sure you're the only one who feels this way. The truth is, you're not alone. It is also true that there are some things you're doing quite right. And there's a community who would love to exchange ideas with you. I'm Carol Maletta, creator of the Parenting 411, a portal for parents where I share information parents need through webinars and masterclasses, and not only that. The parents there support each other on this amazing journey in the Parenting 411 community group on Facebook. I can't wait to meet you in the community. And we're back with the Parenting 411.
Now, all of a sudden, it becomes a team-building, problem-solving thing, as opposed to an adversarial argument. And that's what happens when people get defensive. I have a chapter in the book I call blame, defend, justify, death dance. Somebody blames, or they perceive it as blame. They defend, and then they justify. Boom, like that. And so, let's make sure I heard a noise. I want to make sure we're turning it down. So that it's like a lather, rinse, repeat. It's a death dance, and it's a circle, and you just go round and round and round. And there's probably good information there. People pay Deloitte and McKinsey and lawyers and consultants hundreds of millions of dollars for good advice. Who will give you advice for free?
Right.
Now, if you look at it and go, don't tell me what to do. I don't need your advice. Who
Mm-hmm.
do you think you are? Versus someone's giving me a dozen roses. That's what free advice is. What do I choose to do with it? You know, I hate roses. So when I leave the room, I'm going to throw them away. I love roses. I'm going to put them in a vase when I get home. It's my choice. I have the power.
Mm-hmm.
That's what so much of holding the calm is taking back the power in a tense or conflict situation so you can then control it, manage it, manipulate it, shift it, dilute it, minimize it, whatever it is you need to do.
I like that. Sounds like you could save some marriages with what you just said.
It's like magic beans. It literally is magic beans. And anytime you are tense and upset, I guarantee you, 1, your amygdala is triggered and you're feeling powerless. And 2, you're feeling defensive. Boom, like that. I'm human. You could poke me, and I have a very long wick now because I do this professionally, but you could poke me. I could be tired, hungry, hangry, frank, you know, and you could poke me and I could react, but I have a long wick. And then as soon as I do, I will literally say to myself, I will close my eyes. I'm holding the calm. I'm holding the calm. I'm holding the calm. All right. How am I going to handle this? What am I going to do? You've got the power in that interaction. And I think my next book's going to be all about power. Getting it, keeping it, taking it, minimizing it. That's what our society is with our bumper car egos. That's what it's all about.
I think that's a book we need. I definitely think that is. And so a lot of what we're talking about, we face those similar conflicts in parenting, whether it's with our parenting partner, our spouse or partner, and also the power struggles that we get into with children. Do you agree?
Oh God, yes. I have 4 children and 4 grandchildren.
Okay.
And I tell you, there's a technique in the book I invented for my 6-year-old. And can I share it with our listeners?
I would love it.
So I had a 6-year-old that used to have very big feelings, feelings. And he would get very angry and he just didn't know how to handle it. So I can't give him logic and reason. Right. And the reason I'm using this example is, how many times are you talking to your teenager who just became a 6-year-old? Or your spouse who really reverted and became a 6-year-old? Or a mother-in-law or father-in-law who became a 6-year-old? So what I said to him is, when you're having really big feelings and they're overwhelming, even saying holding the calm doesn't really work, because the prefrontal cortex is here underneath your forehead. And I joke we have flat foreheads because we smash our heads against the wall, you know. So what happens is that we lose the ability to think logically and rationally. Everything is that's emotional, and it hits the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous systems, and it runs through you like electricity through a wire. Boom. You need to interrupt it. So what I taught him to do is, you take my hand and I dig the fingernails into the fatty palm of the palm, and I dig it enough to where I feel it. It's a little pinch, right? I dig it. Now, what that just did is it sent a neuroelectrical signal through my entire body that went, ow. So just imagine you said something nasty to me and I'm all mad at you, Carol, and then a brick fell on my foot. Am I paying attention to you, or am I paying attention to my broken foot now?
No, absolutely, your broken foot.
Exactly. So the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system gets interrupted. It happens. So if you do this, you take your nails, dig it into the fatty part of your palm, a little pinch. Some people can take a rubber band and give it a little snap if they wear a rubber band on their hand. It just interrupted the signal to where you can go, now I'm an adult, so I can say, I'm dinosauring it out if I need it. But with my 6-year-old, you know, what am I going to say to him? So I can say, excuse me, I'm holding the calm. I'm holding the calm. Right. But I got a 6-year-old. So I just said, look, Noah, dig your fingers into your palm and just go, I'm dinosauring it out. I'm dinosauring it out. I'm dinosauring it out. 3 times. That's all you got to do. And all of a sudden, you're a little calmer. I'm really mad about this. I said, something. instead of getting angry. And I just literally invented it for him. He uses it all the time. And I now teach it. And I have adults that have written me that say, oh, thank God. I mean, that was fantastic. So let's say you're with a spouse and they are just ticking you off. I mean, you can say, I'm holding the calm, I'm holding the calm. That's when you're feeling quasi-rational. But let's say you are not rational. I mean, let's do the advanced course here. I can't stand the sight of you. I can't wait to just walk out of this room. You can literally say, I'm dinosauring it out, I'm dinosauring it out, I'm dinosauring it out. The other spouse, if they read Holding the Calm and you know this little lexicon we're creating, can go, ooh, well, I really pissed you off, didn't I? Ooh, okay.
That's true.
Now, all of a sudden, they take a step back. Now, maybe we can have a conversation about that. Maybe we can say, look, I need 10 minutes or I need an hour, and I commit to coming back and talking to you. That's what people, the thing that they lose in parental relationships or with teenagers is, I need space. I can't talk to you.
And they don't come back.
You don't come back, and you'll make a commitment to come back. So that leaves the other person angry and hurt and upset. So if you say, I need 10 minutes or I need an hour, and then I will come back and we'll finish this conversation. Is that okay with you? Yeah. And then you come back, you be a person of your word, and you come back. Now, what's that encounter like now? The other person, you're a person of your word. Took space for yourself. You're modeling that for your kid or your teen or your spouse or the coach or what else you're doing. And you start with, thank you for listening to me. You could see how frustrated I was. I really appreciate you being patient with me as I'm trying to sort through this. May I share with you my concerns? Who's going to say no to that? Seriously, who's going to say no? And I tell you guys, I raised teenagers and this works. I wish I had known all of what I'm doing now when I had teenagers. I've gotten a little better, obviously, with time, but so good with teenagers, because teenagers, I mean, first of all, I should do a show of hands for anyone listening to this. Raise your hand if you want to be a teenager again. Like, none of us.
No, absolutely not.
Not one of us. It's horrible. Unless you were really, really lucky and had great teen years, and then you're raising your hand. But but literally, they've got testosterone and estrogen drop kicking into their little bodies, growing, and hairs in places, and boobies growing, and legs are growing. What is happening here? I mean, it is. And then, do you like me? Do you don't? Am I rejected? Am I included? And then forget social media. Just add that.
Oh my goodness.
Everything else. It's awful. And so giving them tools for self-mastery and power is so important, because they feel powerless.
Yes.
In every area of their life. So you're tired. You worked all day. You've got a big meeting. They're being annoying. Just do it because I told you to do it.
Right.
Sometimes that's legitimate. You're the parent and there's nothing you can do about it. But realize you depowered them. As soon as you can get holding the calm and get a hold of yourself, go back to them and give them some power.
Exactly.
I realize I didn't ask your permission before I did that. I know that you were stressed about your test, and the last thing you needed was for me to put my stress on you. What do you think we should cook for dinner tonight? What would you like to watch for TV? Can I just sit with you while we listen to some music together and reconnect with you? What would you like? Give them power. And the power can be, and I say this to anyone who's listening who has to be in a business deal somehow, the worst negotiators are the aggressive guys. Those are the ones who really don't get good deals, unless they're dealing with someone really weak and then they take advantage of them. And then those people remember, and that's the rep, and it's not good.
Right.
Sophisticated negotiators. I mean, people hire me. I negotiate deals for people. I'm calm and I'm quiet and I'm respectful and I give power away. When would you like to start? What would you like to eat? What music would you like to play? What issues are most important to you? What would you like to discuss first? You give power away in things like that critical. The amygdala calms down. One relaxes. We can still have disagreements about things, but I'm now not an enemy that you have to. With teenagers and parents, we create ourselves as parents as enemies.
Yes.
Well, what do you expect? And then you could say, well, I have to teach them, they're bad, and I should listen. No, no, no. You're just justifying and defending. If the
Right.
kid is listening.
And this power sharing can really even happen when they are a little younger. I mean, because a lot of the misbehavior that we see in the pushback is that they feel powerless. They can't articulate it in that way, but that's what they feel. They have no choices. Everything, life is just happening to them. And so we have to, as is age appropriate, little by little. I mean, they can't get they can't have a choice about everything that happens to them in the day, but allowing them to make some decisions, especially about things that really affect them directly in the beginning, can be so empowering, and just they can be more agreeable and cooperative in those moments where, as you said, sometimes it just has to be the way the parent says. Something has to happen at a certain time, but because they don't feel powerless, they're kind of like, okay, I can go with that. I can go along.
And it's good to set up a framework that, you're going to be in charge of this.
Yes.
Just like on other things, mommy's in charge, or daddy's in charge, or auntie, or nana, or grandpa, whoever it is. So you set it up that I'm not giving away power because you're in charge, because, little kids can think that, and then you've got that pushback. So I'm in charge of some things. You're in charge of some other things. And this is not in the book, but I use it with my grandchildren all the time, and it's magic beans. Everyone who's listening, you're going to love this. I don't know, whatever. My 7-year-old granddaughter was complaining about something. And rather than arguing with her about it, I just said, and she said, why can't you tell me now? And I said, your little brother's 5. You're 7. Are you smarter than he is? Yeah. Are you smarter than when you were 5? Yeah. Do you think you'll be smarter when you're 9? Oh, yeah. How about when you're 12? Oh, yeah. How old is Nana? You think maybe I know a few more things? Are you willing to trust me? See how that whole thing took, 6 seconds?
Right.
And how easily you led them to where you didn't say to them, I'm older than you, I know more than you, I have wisdom. You do it like that. Yes. I'm telling you, listeners, it is magic beans for these little kids. And they then go, oh, and you also get a side benefit of a little dose of respect gets thrown in there, because you respected them.
Yes. And, and really that conversation that you're having with them, it's information and insight. I call it news they can use, because a lot of times, previous generations, parents just didn't reason with you. It was the way it was because they said so. The end of it. Don't think about it. Don't doubt it. Do what I say. And I just feel like when we give them context, I mean, it's still is going to be, we're still leading the family, and we still have certain things have to be done a certain way, but we're giving them some information about it because we want thinkers, critical thinkers as well.
Right. I heard a story, again, I'm giving some little tidbits that are not in the book, because you get all my good juicy stuff when you read the book. And by the way, my website, holdingthecalm.com, has podcasts and all kinds of free stuff. I do 1-minute video tips. I'm just trying to get this out there for people to have free stuff. Take it, use it, do it in your churches and synagogues and groups and HOA groups, and so you can practice some of this stuff. And that's really why I'm trying to get it out there to do it. But it's so interesting how you can have power and not be a jerk.
Yes.
That's a very hard thing to do, right? And teenagers are grappling with that. Middle schoolers now, because kids are getting older, younger. They're exposed to
good way to put it.
Right? TV, and it's just, I remember things you might never let them see or be exposed to, and they are seeing and they're being exposed to it. And it's just real life. And so helping them understand what is power. Are you a trusted adult? Can I talk to you? The number one thing for a kid to whether or not they're going to trust you is listen to them. Yes. That's the number one thing. So if you listen to them and they feel like they can come and talk to you and not get scolded and yelled at and all of that, and just listen, it is the number one trust building thing you can have. I used to have my kids' friends would come and sit at my kitchen table and talk to me because I would listen.
Right.
You know? There's plenty of time for judging and advice and don't do that. There's plenty of time for that. But being able to just listen. And so here's this story that I heard on NPR's Hidden Brain.
Okay.
And the book was already in final, so I couldn't add it, but I thought it was just brilliant. It was a couch company, and they sold $20,000 customized bespoke couches. You pick the length and the piping and the fabric and the pillows and everything you wanted to do. And they would get people that online would go all the way through the design process and not complete the sale. Really frustrated. And so what do we do as humans? It's like we have a car. It's gas or a brake. So everyone, what do? We put gas on it. More, louder, argumentative, persuasive. They did sales. They did more advertising. They did more social media. Didn't change anything at all.
Okay.
Finally, they stopped to listen. They hired somebody who went interviewed all the people, had gone all the way through the point of sale and didn't complete. The overwhelming reason why these people that could afford a $20,000 couch didn't complete the sale, drum roll please, they didn't know what to do with the old couch. Solution is now easy, right?
Right.
We bring you the new one, we take away the old one, and we'll get you a tax deduction receipt because we go to this, a charity that they will go to. But the solution came from listening. It wasn't readily apparent. Love that, because with your kids, the teacher, with the coach, with your boss, with another company ad executive, with anybody, they say something, it's not what we want to hear. So our first thing is more, more. Holding the calm, creating that moat, taking a step back, and listening, asking questions and listening. Says, oh yeah, we always listen. We don't do it. I'm not so good at it.
Right.
We can't do the parasympathetic nervous system dinosauring it out thing to stop. Okay, I really want to hear what you have to say. And then solutions are going to emerge. You had no idea. I had no idea you were thinking that. I had no idea that was important to you.
Right. And we parents can be pleasantly surprised and amazed by hearing those kinds of ideas from their own kids. I mean, like solutions to problems, that the family might be having, or decisions they have to make. That your child might have some great ideas. I mean, obviously it's got to be, appropriate for them to be weighing in on, but I mean, and then in terms of the problems they might be having, their room's not clean, or they're not doing their chores or things like that, a conversation could really help, and you'd learn a lot because
we know when they've got the kids, how often do we say, clean your room, do your just take your finger like I'm doing it and poke it at yourself in the mirror. Isn't that just nasty? Who the heck likes that? But that's what we do. But I've told you this 100 times. Then why are you saying it?
Exactly.
You're not giving them new information. So now it's a time. What is stopping you from cleaning your room? What are the barriers you have? How can I help you with the problems? Right. You go to the why. There's a guy named Simon Sinek who's really like listening to him, who talks about we do a lot of the what, not enough of the why. Right. Why do you want your room to look like this? Why? And you could say, why aren't you doing your homework? And they're going to go, I don't know. But you can just say, is your homework due? Have you finished it? What are the barriers in your way? What are the rocks in your path that are stopping you from doing it? And how can I help you? Yes. What would be helpful to you? Different conversations you're going to have with your kid. Dramatically different. And the icing on that cake is subliminally into their head is, you're an adult I can trust. You're an adult who has my back. You're an adult who listens to me, which means when someone's touching them inappropriately, or there's alcohol or drugs or cheating or whatever, I can talk to you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We'll be right back after this. As the saying goes, mother's work is never done, except when it really is. I'm talking about my new book, Mother's Work, Pearls of Wisdom and Gems from My Journey. I share my transformation from an outmanned, overwhelmed mom of twin boys to a parenting strategist and consultant, and being honored as DC Mother of the Year by American Mothers Incorporated. In Mother's Work, I tell you about the 7 guideposts that kept me anchored as I weathered the peaks and valleys of motherhood. Grab your copy at carolmaletta.com/motherswork. And we're back with the Parenting 411.
Now, in your book, you talk about the importance of words when it comes to managing conflict and keeping the peace. So talk a bit about that.
So it's very interesting. So words are important and tone is important. It's actually both of those things. So I can say things to you, and chapter 1 of the book is speak into the ears that are hearing you. So if you're an introvert, shouldn't I speak to you differently than if you were an extrovert?
Oh, absolutely. I have twins, and so I have one of each.
Oh, really? The twins are one of each. That's interesting.
So yeah, absolutely. I delivered the same message or the same instructions, but I absolutely had to deliver it in a different way and maybe use different word choice. And, same thing with them. I had private jokes that were different with each of them, because if I did something with one, he's like, "What are you doing? That's not funny," or whatever. Then the other one, he loves it. So it's just really, and as I said, they're twins, and they just have very different temperaments and all of that. So absolutely, you have to meet the person where they're at.
Which means you have to stop and I have to see you.
Yes.
I have to hear you and know who and what you are. And the analogy I give people is, if I know you're gluten sensitive, why would I shove pizza at you just because I like pizza? Right. Or if you're lactose intolerant, why would I shove ice cream at you and think you're a weirdo because you don't like ice cream because I like ice cream? That's what we tend to do. Even in people say, like, I love to be validated. Someone else can go, "Ooh, get away from me. What is that weirdo thing you should do?" Somebody else says, "Ooh, I love it when you give me gifts." And someone else can go, "That feels weird. What do you want from me?" You just don't know who they are. But when you take the time to find that out, you have a wealth of information. And now it's basically servant leadership is what happens in the corporate world, but what happens in your family. And I think it was Rumi. It's either Rumi or Khalil Gibran, I can't remember, has a poem that says, "Children are to be unfolded, not molded." I just absolutely love
I
that.
love that, yes, because it acknowledges, that they come here to, and it's up to us to discover them and help them discover themselves and create the life that they were meant to lead, give them those skills, but ultimately to create the life that they were meant to lead. I like that a lot.
But the thing I also say, because I always want to do the advanced course, let's say that someone listening to this podcast obviously is going to be receptive to that kind of message. That's why they're listening to this particular podcast. But let's say their partner or their spouse or someone in their family is of the old school of, "You'll do what I say," and molding and make a man out of you, and you should do this as a woman, whatever kind of stuff that they do, and that they kind of crunch down on people. How are you going to handle that and protect your kid from that? So the answer, I say, the unfolding actually protects you. It makes them listen to you. It makes them be responsive to you. It makes them give a darn what you think. The molding just makes them obedient and complicit until they can get the heck away.
Yes.
Actually reduces all of your effectiveness. And you can have that kind of a conversation with that other person who at first is going to be, and then they're going to watch you, why the kid likes you and the kid doesn't like them.
Mm-hmm.
Not because you were mean to them.
Right.
Because you were crunching their spirit. You don't know who they are. And if you take the time to find out who they really are, most people are really pretty interesting.
Exactly.
And have a unique point of view. And let's put it this way. Let's say you don't want to think like that. Okay. It's like Albert Einstein's quote that said, the world is either magical or not. You can choose to live as if it's magic or not. I choose to live in that it's magic.
Mm-hmm.
It's a better world.
Absolutely. Now, I wonder if you could share how you did talk about the strategy you had for your son to help him to hold the calm. What kinds of hacks do you have that parents could teach their children about when they face conflict, how to handle that?
Teach them these sentence stems that are in the book, because in the moment of conflict, their amygdala is triggered. Mm-hmm. So they're in trouble. They're not thinking clearly. So you may give them all the wisdom you want, but it's not coming out in a moment of conflict. It's just too hard. But if you memorize a couple of sentence stems, you can totally shift everything completely. Mm-hmm. And the positive ones are, as I've told you, what I respect about you, what I admire about you, what I like about you, what I appreciate about you. Nobody says, don't tell me anything else. Nobody, ever. I want to hear what you have to say next. You have my full and complete attention. Mm-hmm. And it just changes everything. It just changes it. And it's very easy to call someone the bully.
Right.
Maybe they are a bully in the way we think of it. Mm-hmm. Maybe they also abuse themselves and don't know how to use power themselves. And yes. If you turn and flip that around, there's a famous story about Steven Spielberg, who was a sweet little boy. And there was a big guy there that was the bully and would bully him all the time. And Steven Bill Spielberg was given a video camera as a little kid, and he wanted to make movies. So he went to the bully and asked him if he wanted to star in his movie as whatever, giant or something like that. The guy loved it and became his best friend through all the school and protected him from everyone else. Mm-hmm. Does that always happen? Of course not. Are there times where things are very inappropriate and you need boundaries and protection? Yes, of course. Mm-hmm. Try to make this sort of the 80-20 rule or even the 90-10 rule. Okay. It's going to work in the vast majority of circumstances. In unusual or difficult situations, you may, you need adult help. You may need to say that inappropriate touching, by an adult or by an older kid or things like that. And these are not the right techniques. It's just, boundaries. Mm-hmm. But aside from those really bad things, just normal human interaction. Mm-hmm. Sentence stems are absolutely fantastic. Dinosauring it out is absolutely fantastic. Mm-hmm. If someone's really nasty, you can say, did you intend to offend me with that statement? Let's say you're in a big group and your daughter is there and one of the catty bratty girls says some catty bratty thing to her, right? You can literally stand up and say, did you intend to offend me with that? Mm-hmm. She's going to shrink away and be embarrassed because everyone's going to laugh at her. Mm-hmm. Now, all of a sudden, you took power. So there's a lot of different techniques to use in different situations. You got to decide, which tool you want to use and how you want to do it. But there's a ton of it in the book and on my webpage for parents to be able to use. But the biggest thing I would say is don't get too technique-y crazy. The techniques are great. I like having a fork, a knife, spoon, chopsticks. I like having all that stuff. But sometimes I'm just going to shove food in my mouth, right? Particularly if it's popcorn. I'm just going to shove it in my mouth. Yes. So there's time for that. So there's times when you just need a technique, and there's times when you need to go, okay, wait. I think we got off track here. I don't understand what you're saying to me. And I feel like I've hurt your feelings. I want to understand more. Can we take a step back and do over and let me listen this time? Does not completely transform an interaction instantly. Absolutely. Especially with co-parents, spouses, with adults, it works fantastic. Even with kids, because I've done this with my grandchildren. To imagine they're little, my grandchildren. And I'll do that. they stop, they get a little bit of power, and then they say, and they literally will do this. Yes, Nana, you may have a do-over.
And it's so respectful. It's so respectful when parents do that and recognize, okay, wait a minute, I kind of went in this direction and that's not what I intended to do, or that I recognize that that's not called for. Even if they don't have the wherewithal to understand that in the moment, they can also circle back and come back and let the child know. And I just think that's so it's respectful and, as you said, ultimately empowering
and
for the
human.
child.
It's human, because you gotta, abuse them the notion you're perfect, because you're not. You're gonna make mistakes. I used to tell my kids when they were, first having the babies, because they were also stressed out that everything was perfect, I said, look, this year alone, you're gonna make 10,000 decisions. Only 9,000 of them have to be right. You could make 1,000 wrong decisions. It's fine. And they just kind of looked at me shocked. Permission to make mistakes. Then you give your kids permission to make mistakes. You give your kids the ability to say, Mom, can I have a do-over? Or let's say they can't see it. You can say, not sure that that's coming out the way you wanted. Would you like to have a do-over? You could do that with your spouse. I'll make a little joke at my lovely, wonderful husband's expense. Once said to me, I made food and I'm fishing for a compliment. Like I wanted to and how the food I did. And so I keep pushing. And he said, well, I ate it, didn't I? I went, okay. And I just backed up a little bit. I said, oh, I'm holding the comm. And then I said, would you like a do-over on that? And he said, yes. And then, so you can use this stuff with everybody. And then you're also modeling it for your kids. It shows them reality, reality. You give yourself grace, you give them grace. Life's hard. We need all the help and friends through life that we possibly can,
I agree. I mean, I can just imagine so many situations where this is useful, even that children will encounter. It's obviously in the family, with their parents, with their friends. Because of course they do model, you do overhear them sometimes using the language that we use with their friends, but helping them to resolve conflicts. And then also how they engage with their coaches and just other people, because you're not going to always be around anyway. So They really do need these skills in terms of managing conflict, but, and also I feel like it also just gets things turning in their minds. It's, all about developing critical thinking skills.
You're so right on that. You're so right. I want to give you a corollary that's funny that I used to do something when my kids were little called peace chairs. I had these little flat back chairs that when they were fighting with each other, I just want to go, just stop. Like, I'm tired of listening to you already. I would say, okay, it's time for peace chairs. And I would make them sit in these little chairs and basically do what's called reflective feedback or mirroring. Talk, this one would have to say it back. This one would talk, this one would have to say it back. Did you get it right? Did you not? It takes like 15 minutes, but it's annoying. It's actually, it's aggravating and annoying, but I would make them do it so they would learn the listening that leads to critical thinking. But the ancillary benefit is after we did that for, I don't remember how many, 6 months or so, they would fight and I'd say, that's it, we're getting out the peace chairs. And they would go, no, we love each other. So as a parent, I don't care. It worked. It gave me a quiet house.
Yeah. And you gave them a very valuable skill. I bet they're very good at navigating that now, as adults.
They are. They're very good. My son's a lawyer and runs a business. And my daughter's in leadership training, runs a marketing program. And they both they tell me all the time, they have skills and they know how to handle different kinds of people because I let them fail. I let them do it. I let them negotiate things. There's a whole chapter in the book on negotiating where I would let the kids, wherever I could, in a retail situation or the restaurant or something like that, be the one to negotiate something or be the one to get something, because then they would not be afraid of it. and they would learn how to do it. And, you don't want your kid to learn how to change a tire on a rainy, dark night by the side of the road, right?
Absolutely.
You want them to learn now at home in the bright sunlight. So the much as you can do, it's the unfolding, not the molding thing.
Yes, yes. And you want them to already know how to handle these difficult situations. You don't want it to be where it might be something where it could be a life or death situation where they're trying to navigate this. So now tell us where we can find your book and just where parents can learn more about your work.
Thank you so much. Can I add one little corollary? I just wanted to mention to this too, that I feel when you listen to them, you teach them how to listen. And you also teach them how to listen to that inner intuitive voice inside them that says, that's dangerous, I'm not going to go there. Or that's not good to do, I shouldn't do it. Because when everything is so loud and intense all the time, the voice gets crowded out. So that's a great gift. And I just wanted to share that really happens is your kids have that quiet, holding the calm space to hear their own inner voice.
Yes. And I like that. And then also feel that having that practice at home with parents who give them the room to have these kinds of conversations also helps them to, when they're engaging with other adults. And sometimes when they're away from you, and because sometimes even adults won't mean them well. And so they kind of need to know, again, be able to hear their inner voice about situations or, and then realize that they have a vocabulary to talk that out with them, or at a minimum to talk with them enough to get out of the situation.
My daughter-in-law is a psychologist, and she introduced me to a term that she taught her kids called tricky adults. So rather than saying strangers, because what does that actually mean? We're at the park, we're here, you have to hold my hand, you can't do that, because there are tricky adults.
Yes.
You don't want to be around a tricky adult. So if you get a coach or a teacher or a neighbor who's saying and doing stuff they shouldn't do, it fits within their brains of
that's tricky
adult, and then they'll talk to you about it. So I just thought that was a great thing to kind of pass on. Really interesting.
I like that term, and then it's also less scary. Because initially that notion that you mean there's some adults that aren't nice, that I might run into some people that might want to cause me harm. So tricky softens that a little bit. However, you are teaching them that, at the same time that you have to watch out for some people.
We can't be so open-minded that our brains fall out.
Yes, absolutely. So again, where can they get the book, and where can they just learn more about your?
So Holding the Calm, the secret to resolving conflict and diffusing tension, is everywhere books are sold. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, Books A Million, all those places. And my website, holdingthecalm.com, has all kinds of free resources for people to just download and have. And what I put in the back of the book is a little discussion guide. And I was originally told that it should be a separate workbook and you charge for it. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it. So I wrote it in the back of the book so that this way book clubs or school groups or teachers or HOAs or church groups could actually read the book together, and the discussion guide tracks chapter to chapter. So you can just read one chapter together and then talk about it. And you thought that chapter was fine until someone else raises a whole bunch of stuff you didn't think about. And then I had it when I was writing the book, and I had some friends that were reviewing it for me. And I had one friend that just said, oh, I hate that story. That's so stupid. Why would you even put that in there? And I had another friend saying, oh my God, it changed my life. It was the greatest thing. That's what you'll find happening, because we speak into the ears that are hearing us, what resonates with what person. So I designed it that way, that it's inexpensive book to just sit and have these discussion guides, and the Holding the Calm website, so that I'm just trying to get the message out and help people that life can be more harmonious, less acrimonious. And we have the power to do that easily. You don't have to take some class or get some degree to do it. You can do something right now to make your life easier. And I want people to do that.
Yes. Yes. I have the Kindle version, but I really think because nowadays, because I have so many books, as you might imagine, I read a lot and have done a lot of research on various parenting issues. And I've kind of started deciding, okay, is this going to be a Kindle book or is it going to be? And sometimes, sometimes it's quick, especially if I'm interviewing someone and I want to get my hands on the book right away. I will do the Kindle. And sometimes I never get the hard copy, but I really feel like your book is probably going to be one that I need to go ahead and get that because I'm probably going to be writing in the margins.
I like it. And I tell
well.
people, some of the sentence stems or stories, write it on a little Post-it note and stick it on your phone, or put it in a note on your phone, so that when a circumstance happens, you're not fumbling like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? What do I say? Oh, I can try that one. Let me see.
Yes, yes. And I definitely want to share with my sons as well, because they're younger. I would love to have had these skills at 23,
me too.
like them. So I want to make it easier for the next generation. So so that's great. And then they can pass it on to their children too. So thank you so much for spending time with me. I really I love the work that you do and the way you talk about conflict resolution, and you make it so accessible to people. Because on the one hand, they could say, oh, she's this attorney, she's worked with all these corporations, and it's just these negotiations that she's helps companies with. It's these complex issues and all of that. But it really is about listening, as you said, which is something we can all do. And conversation for understanding, seeking to understand. And those are things that we can all do. And you can apply those simple skills to these big situations, these complex negotiations. So I thank you for that. And tell us one more time your website.
Holding the Calm, CALM, holdingthecalm.com.
Okay.
And I'm on LinkedIn. And if any listeners want to, join on LinkedIn, just connect with me on LinkedIn, because I'm always posting cool stuff on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And Facebook. We have a Facebook page too. We just started.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I did both, but I'll make sure that I do as well. And thank you everybody for listening. I hope that there's something here that you've heard that you can try today until you get her book, because I definitely recommend you buy the book and really try a lot the sentence stems and other tools that she has. Add that to your toolkit to create harmony in the house, and continue to support the Parenting 411 podcast. Listen, like, subscribe, share it with a friend, share this episode with a friend for sure. And follow me on the Parenting 411 at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And remember, it's never too late to be the parent that you want to be.